The story begins with a scene where the main character wakes up in a barn. Coming to, he realizes that he has fallen into a computer game that he played the night before. Finding equipment, he decides to go outside and look around. As soon as he gets out, he notices a group of passing farmers and peasants. A little later, he hears cries in the distance. Looking in that direction, he sees that bandits of the same level as the peasants are preparing for battle. Without thinking, he decides to help and kills all the bandits. In gratitude, the village elder, Samara, approaches him and invites him into his home. The old man shows the loot they collected after the fight and gives some of it to the guy. Later, the main character decides to rest and exit the game. But he can't, so he realizes with fear that he's stuck here for a long time. Later, he remembers that the game warned him that once he started the game, he wouldn't be able to return to reality. Understanding that this is his new reality, he realizes that he has to survive and adapt to this new world. After this scene, the village elder comes to him with a prisoner who had stolen the band leader's headband from the group of killed bandits.
As punishment, the prisoner is magically given the social status of thief and sold into slavery.
At the end of the conversation, the guy is given the cards of the killed bandits, for which he can get a reward in the city of Vale. The next morning, they set off for this city. They arrive at the noble knights and Michio Kaga receives the reward for 2 bandits, but he notices that the knights are behaving rudely for some unknown reason. After that, they head to the slave trader's house. Upon arriving, slave trader Alan says that he is impressed that Michigo was able to handle the bandits alone, to which the main character responds it was easy. Alan gives a suspicious look in response. After that, the slave trader explains that there's a labyrinth nearby, to which the main character reacts with surprise. Michigo receives money for the sold slave and says goodbye to everyone. Michigo is left alone with his thoughts of loneliness in this world. At this moment, Alan interrupts him from his thoughts and invites him to talk. He agrees and they walk into Alan's luxurious office. Alan offers him to buy a slave, understanding that the main character is a real adventurer seeker. He tells that his company also sells female slaves. At that moment, the boy starts to fantasize, imagining what he would do with them. In that moment, a girl enters the room with a tray. Michigo turns towards her and looks at her in amazement. He can't believe what is happening and thinks about the girl's beauty. Alan explains to him that this girl is also a slave, and that the protagonist can also buy her. He also says that she is a beast human, a wolf-like creature, smart and docile, and that she would be useful in the labyrinth. Alan hints to the guy that he can do whatever he wants with her, even sexual activities. Michigo is filled with doubts and in the end, he asks for the price. Alan replies that he can give her at a discount for 322,000 nar, including her costume. He replies that he can't afford such a purchase. The man gives the guy 5 days to earn enough money, and they say goodbye. At the end of the first series, the protagonist makes the decision to buy the girl, because he is attracted to her beauty.
The second episode begins with the words "This could be our future," explaining to the viewer that the scene shown at this point in the story is not real, perhaps the main character's dreams. Michigo and his slaves leave the portal. Roxana asks him, "Why did we come here?" He begins to tell him that he was here once long ago before he met Roxana, that it's just a good memory. Then they go to a farmer's field and spot a little boy who looks like Michigo. A scene from the past lets us know that it is the son of protagonist from an unknown woman. He approaches him and starts a conversation. The little boy says that he is growing up without a father. Michigo pulls a sword from his inventory and gives it to the boy and instructs him to use it wisely. He is excited and runs to his mother. Later we learn that it was a sword once gifted to Roxana, to which she replies that she didn't mind. The protagonist says goodbye to the place and goes back into the portal. The next scene begins with Michigo sitting at a table and speculating on how to make the remaining 70,000 coins. Then he remembers a conversation with Alan, when he told him about a labyrinth found near the city and that he has 2 options, either to be a bounty hunter or to clear the labyrinth and get money for the artifacts. He also makes it clear that the first option is very dangerous but profitable. In the end, he decides to start with the labyrinth. After purchasing the necessary equipment, he sets off. When approaching the labyrinth, he notices a group of people, among whom there are mages who know how to open portals. He enters the labyrinth. He opens the interface and sees that he possesses some perks, like Thief, obtained earlier by stealing sandals. Using the portal ability, he enters another room, but realizes that the portal only works in one direction. As he walks down the hall, he encounters a plant mob, which he kills with a single swing of his sword and notices the mighty power of his Durandal. Not long after, he finds another mob, and before he kills it, he demonstrates the suppression ability, which slows the enemy. After the fight, he feels weak and realizes that he spent all his mana while using his abilities. He then goes to sell the loot he obtained. For 21 branches he is given 273 coins. The main character, being upset, realizes that at this rate, he will not earn the necessary amount of money to buy Roxana and decides to spend the entire next day in the labyrinth. Not waiting for morning, he teleports back in the middle of the night. While resting after another killed demon, he accidentally discovers a secret room where there is a broken sword. However, it turns out that it is a trap and that other demons are guarding it, which comes as a surprise to Michiko. He tries to escape by creating a portal, but he finds out that it can't be placed during battle. Being extremely exhausted and tired, he gathers his spirit and fights the demons and manages to destroy them all. After that, Michiko realizes that he did not die because his Dirindle has the ability of passive healing. On the way home, he notices a crowd of people near a tree. Approaching closer, he sees dead bandits, which were probably killed by bounty hunters. One of the gawkers tells him that it is possibly the revenge of the banished bandits. Considering the situation, he decides to become a bounty hunter instead of an unprofitable clearing of the labyrinth. In the next episode, Michiko walks through the local market and overhears a conversation discussing recently killed bandits who are being avenged by other gang members for being kicked out of the slums to the north. The hero decides to visit the slum area and opens a portal there. After looking around the neighborhood, he finds no bandits and decides to go there at night. The main character, taking a flashlight, sets off on his journey. Walking along the street for a bit, he notices a bright light around the corner. It turns out to be a brothel. Michiko decides to turn there. Passing by, he sees naked women, but the guy resists his sexual desires, convincing himself that they are infected and that there is no girl more beautiful than Roxana. Approaching the entrance, he finds the long-awaited bandit. The main character sits on his tail and follows him all the way to the slums. Eventually, they reach the bandit's shack. Michiko overhears the bandits talking, one telling the other that the bandit at the city gates was killed by the gang members led by Hugo, whom the protagonist beheaded at the beginning of the first series. After hearing all this, the guy decides to return home and consider his next actions. Upon returning home, the innkeeper invites Michiko to dine at the establishment. While they sit at the table, the innkeeper tells the main character that there has been a change of leadership in one of the gangs, that the candidates for the throne fought and that the losing bandits were driven out of the city. The bandit who was killed recently was one of those who won. In general, it was presented as if those who were kicked out of town had done it. They wanted to set someone up. In the middle of the night, Michiko decides to set out to the hideout he discovered earlier that evening. When he arrives at the location, he begins a conversation with the bandit standing at the door. He asks him for information in exchange for the bandana of the thief, Hugo. The bandit invites him into the house, but it turns out to be a trap, and he intends to kill him. During the conversation, the main character finds out that the man originally intended to get the bandana. In the end, Michiko easily deals with him and all those who were sleeping in the cabin, cutting off their hands for the reward for their heads. After everything that has happened, Michiko realizes the cruelty of this world, where there are no rights, no justice, no police, and how desperate his situation is. The next day he goes to the Order's headquarters and exchanges the intelligence cards of the murdered bandits for coins. After counting the number of coins, he is glad he has enough money to buy Roxanne. Then he goes to the slave trader's house and buys her, having signed a contract for her possession. The next episode begins with a scene in the hotel. Michiko meets his new ward and gives her his sandals, to which she expresses immense gratitude. Settling in at the hotel, they go to the market. There, they buy the girl necessary equipment and clothing and return. Michiko tries to gain Roxana's trust and shows care and tenderness in every way. But being a slave, she seems to fear or be ashamed to accept the love of the main character. Before bed, the hotel owner brings them hot water so they can wash up. Our heroes begin to in the morning. Michiko asks Roxanne how he can get to blacksmiths can do this. The main character notices at this point that the squad also needs a blacksmith. Upon entering the labyrinth, Michiko learns that Roxana can detect nearby enemies by her sense of smell, since she is a wolf-like creature. Upon encountering another pair of mobs, she asks the protagonist for a magic crystal, to which he responds that he has never heard of such an item. She starts to explain to him that the stone accumulates mana after killing enemies, and it is the most expensive item for sale as mana accumulates very slowly. After a successful expedition, they return to the hotel. Roxana asks Michiko if he will return to his homeland. He responds that he likes it here and that he would like to stay here with her forever. After the rest, they go to buy empty mana crystals. After the purchase, they return to the labyrinth. On the way, Roxana tells him that in fact the labyrinths are alive. Later, the protagonist notices that it would be nice to have a healer in the team. Roxana explains that only priests and monks have healing skills, but to become one of them, you have to kill demons with bare hands. Michiko, after some hesitation, fulfills the necessary conditions and receives the ability to heal. They return home. Michigo praises his slave for her help on the expedition and begins. The next morning we see them standing at the door of the boss. The 5th episode of the anime ends here.